Hey guys, it's Lou. I wanted to talk today about it's sort of a continuation of my treasury videos that I did prior to Christmas, where I highlighted some Marvel and DC Christmas themed treasury editions. I wanted to talk more about what really hooked me into loving these treasuries so much, and that has to be the famous first editions. So if you're interested, stay tuned. So hopefully you guys saw that first video or the first two videos of the treasuries. And if you didn't, it doesn't really matter. So I just thought it fitting to continue this sort of a series of treasury analyses and give you another peek into my childhood and what started my journey in this hobby. That being the DC Treasury famous first editions. So first off, DC Treasury books, if you're not familiar, are oversized books. They're probably twice as long as a comic. Not twice as long, maybe 1.5 times as high as a comic, and considerably wider. They're like 10 by 14. Marvels were a little bit stockier, but the DCs were a little bit bigger. And what they used to do is they used to reprint their better issues from their character's history. And what DC did was they had a sub-series within limited collector's edition called Famous First Editions. And they reprinted the first appearances, origin stories, early stories of their most iconic characters. Okay, so but the series themselves, the limited collector's editions, weren't just limited collector's editions. There was also DC Special Series, which were tabloid, a couple of them, all new collector's editions. There was some collaborations with Marvel, and then there was this famous first edition. So I'm going to go through every one of them. There are 10. I'm only going to do 5 of them today because I don't want to bore you to death, all right? But let's go through them. This is my favorite among all of them. Again, I mentioned in one of my videos, I'm a Shazam fan, but I'm a Shazam comic fan. I didn't really care for the movie so much. I'm not trying to down the movie. It was okay. It was okay. It wasn't what I thought. I was a huge fan of the TV show, which maybe I'll throw something in a little while about that. I really love that Saturday morning show. But this was F4. Numbering system was strange with famous first editions. It was either F-45678 or C-26, 28, 30, whatever. And I should mention that these books, the ones you're going to see on screen, are my originals from when I was a kid. So the way you know how much I love these books is the way you know how much every comic is loved, by how ratty it is. So you'll see some of them which are pristine, which means I really didn't care for it. And then you'll see other ones that are, their finger bends all over and they're wrinkled, whatever. You'll know I read it over and over again. This F4, Shazam, Wiz Comics, no number, number 1, number 2. It's very strange. Look it up. This was my favorite, without a doubt. I read the heck out of this book. I mean, that original story, this crippled little orphan kid selling papers, and some stranger, comes up to him and directs him to a subway. And he gets in the subway and he gets off and he's in Shazam's cave. And then, you learn all about, what Shazam stands for. And I'll put it in, I'll put a picture up just to show you. But I loved all of these characters. And I even learned about the 7 deadly sins through Shazam. Isn't that amazing? So it's really something how you really do get educated early on through comic books. I really believe that 100%. And then this came out 1970, I think I have the date, 1974. Right about the time, was it 2 years before? 1 or 2 years before the Saturday morning show came out. These coincided wonderfully because then DC made a lot more Shazam treasury editions. I loved every one of them. Okay? And by the way, if you've never seen that Saturday morning show, go online, watch one show, but then put yourself in the mind of an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old Every show had a moral, had a lesson. It was wonderfully done, even to this day. And I met all the actors involved, with the exception of Mentor, who passed away by the time the convention scene came around. But I met Jackson Bostwick, who played Captain Marvel. I met John Davy, who also played Captain Marvel. I met Michael Gray, who played Billy Batson. Just, fabulous people. Very nice. This was a situation where it was definitely okay to meet your heroes. Okay, let's move on. Second one, C26. See how the numbering is really weird? This was also from 1974, and this was a reprint of Action Comics #1. Now, this was not my introduction to Superman. I can't tell you when that was. Maybe when I was 2 days old. I have no idea. I always knew Superman. And I knew most of the characters discussed today, with the exception of maybe the Justice Society. But reading this issue and seeing that Superman at this time only being able to
leap tall buildings at a single bound
and doesn't fly yet was still amazing. And it didn't matter that the art was not what I was used to. In the 70s, we had Neil Adams, we had Jim Aparo, we had Ross Andrew, Frank Brunner, Rich Buckler, is that his name? Buckler. They were sort of, reinventing the industry with their styles. Action Comics #1 was drawn in newspaper strip form, simple, to-the-point images, but they still managed to capture the imagination. And then came the Batman. This is C28, which was Detective Comics #27. For those of you that don't know, most of you know this, DC Comics is called DC because of Detective Comics. I mean, I know you all know that, but I just wanted to throw it out there, just in case, Now, all of us want to have a Detective Comics 27 in our collection. And right now, I'm not sure what the price is, $1 million, $2 million, who knows. But the funny thing is, the story of Batman in that book is about 6 pages. It's not this long entire story. And it starts with Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon. They're friends. And they're sitting down, and Commissioner Gordon is talking to him about this Batman that's out fighting crime. And Bruce Wayne's like, oh, that sounds weird or whatever. I don't believe that. And it ends with them again sitting down and Bruce Wayne calling the Batman a fairy tale. It's really cool, but it is very, very short. So I'm not sure spending $2 million on 6 pages is worth it. But if I had the money, probably would. The rest of the book, though, here's the funny thing. This treasury is not filled with Batman stories. It's just filled with representative stories from DC from back in the day. That's the only Batman story in this treasury, which is kind of deceiving. But even so, you'll see from the image I give you, I read this over and over and over again, even though it's only 6 pages, which I didn't realize till I went back to look at it for this video. Next was C30, Sensation Comics. So we're going to round out the Trinity here with Wonder Woman. So with Sensation Comics #1, I always assumed that was where Wonder Woman made her premiere. And I realized, later on that it wasn't, that she actually came about in All-Star Comics #8. And there's actually an advertisement for it in Sensation Comics. You can see it right here. And that's another great thing about these famous first editions. They contain the exact advertisements that were in the original books. It's really kind of cool and very, very nostalgic. This book, you'll notice, is, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's kind of untouched. It's really pristine. Oh wait, is this the one that's really clean? I have to check my pages now. But I can tell you this: I was not a fan of the artwork of the early Sensation Comics or Wonder Woman. I kind of felt like the inking was very thick, and the shapes were very rounded. I don't think they did the body justice, and it's terrible for me to say that. I mean, who am I to judge? I'm not an artist. But it didn't attract me as a child to read this. Even though I wanted to collect it, I wanted it in my collection, but not really wasn't for me. Oddly enough, I think I got a hardcover version of this, but we'll see that in part 2. And the last one for today, F5, again, back to the strange numbering, right? Batman #1. This is I love this cover. I absolutely love this cover. By the way, every one of these covers I tried drawing. This is where I learned to draw. Even though, like I said, I'm not an artist, but I love to as a kid to draw and learn shapes and muscles and things like that. Looking at these, this is where I learned to draw. But this is, Caped Crusader himself, Batman #1, with a 2-page origin recap that first appeared in Detective Comics 33. That's where his real origin was told. And this is really cool too. This is a point where we see the bat suit is actually bulletproof. And here's an image of him fighting the Joker, or him charging at the Joker, and the Joker's shooting him, and he's saying, "Why won't you die?" And Batman's thinking, hasn't he ever heard of a bulletproof suit? It's awesome. It's just awesome. And of course, this is where we see Joker for the first time. And let me tell you, he is a frightening character. I know, we make him up today with these artists, give him the ripped up face and the mangled teeth and whatever they do to make him look horrible. They didn't need to do that in this comic. The way the comic was written and the actions of the Joker made this character frightening. And I think we all know, or maybe you don't know, he was based on a character from Lon Chaney's movie The Man Who Laughs. Here's a picture of that. But if you think about the 1989 Batman and what the Joker did in there with the when he mixed up the chemicals and caused people to get those grins, that was started in this comic. That storyline came from this comic, from Batman #1. So they went all the way back to the beginning. But this is a wonderful book, and this has, unlike the Detective 27 Treasury, this does have more Batman stories and more Batman Joker stories. So it's well worth it. And talking about, value, these are not expensive. On average, $10 to $20, depending on condition. If it's, it's fit to you, you pick them up, but they're so cool. And I love that they have the old advertisements, and you see the comics that were also coming out at that time. They're wonderful for kids to get them into comics because they're large, and they're seeing the characters in their purest state. And even very attractive just for your shelf, to be honest. But tell me what you think. If you kind of like this stuff, let me know. If you're into the treasuries, if you're not. Again, these came out in the 70s. I grew up in the 70s. These were my kind of books. They might not be yours. That's fine. But they might be something you want to discover. If you wanted to get them all, it could be a nice little challenge for you, because they are limited. Both DC and Marvel's, they are limited. They reissued some a couple of years ago, but they weren't good. One of them tried really hard, and I'll review that in part 2. But all in all, you can get the older ones, and it would be a nice little challenge for you, but you could accomplish it if you're like one of these completists. And that's it. So until next time, in part 2 for this, please remember, like, comment, let me know what you think, and subscribe if you get a chance. And I'll see you next time. Take care.